So when my stepdad dipped out, he would come and get my brother and me. And this happened a handful of times. And he would take us, for a couple days to get us away. And by that time, I had fell in love with my stepdad because I had realized that my mom was, an abuser and unhinged, and that she was very dangerous. I could no longer talk, like I was no longer my mom's man. I could no longer talk to her. I could no longer, even though she would tell me that and try to make up, my spirit was completely separated from her because I realized that she was a liar, that she was an actress, that she was completely selfish. It was all about her. So I had clung to my stepdad. Well, when he had left, the beatings that me and my brother were supposed to be taking from him every day, we were now taking directly from her. She couldn't beat my little brother. It was too hard for her to beat my little brother because my little brother, see, I was the extrovert. I was the outgoing one. I had these mental disorders where, I said what was on my mind. I was very outgoing. My brother was complete opposite. He was extremely quiet. He was extremely introverted. He had an eye patch. The first several years of his life, he wore an eye patch. He had all kinds of other health issues. I had major health issues as well. I haven't gone into as a young child. Now that I know that these extreme health issues me and my brother dealt with all came from the trauma and the neglect from my mom. So my brother was a complete introvert. My mom could not beat him. I remember her being devastated by my brother crying. So she couldn't beat him. I think she smacked him like once or twice. She couldn't do it anymore. But she could do me. Because when I got beat, I got mad. Because I knew I was being beat for an unrighteous reason. When I got told I was lying, I said, no, I'm not lying. This is the truth. And I would get beat worse. My beatings were so bad by the time I was 12. I couldn't take it anymore. And I called my stepdad up, and back then, this was the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. All you had was a house phone. It was highly fucking guarded. Every number that was called in and out, every second that was talked was accounted for. I had somehow gotten a call out to my stepdad for help. He said, Richard, I want you to come down to the bottom of the mountain. I'll meet you there and I'll save you. I was 12 years old. I said, I'm not going anywhere without my brother, because I knew if I left my brother, even though my mom didn't want to beat on him, I knew there was nobody else to beat on. She wasn't going to beat on my two baby sisters. They were babies at the time. I knew she wasn't going to beat on them. So I said, no, I'm not going anywhere without my brother. So he said, fine. So that next day, I took my brother, and I told him, oh, we're going outside to play, Mom. Like we always did back then, Back then in the 80s, 90s, that's all you did was play outside. You left in the morning, came back at night for dinner. So I took my brother, and like I said, I was 12. He was either 10 or 9 years old, 9 or 10 years old. I can't remember. But I was 12. He was 9 or 10. And I took my little brother, and we ran down the mountain, and we escaped. My stepdad picked us up. He was able to keep us at his house for a little over a week. He told the cops that that we were being abused. They couldn't do anything. They had no proof. Within a week, we were back in my mom's house. My stepdad, afraid of, my dad dipped out. There's so much more to this with the trauma and the fact of the evil shit my mom did with these men and the evilness that she was doing back then, claiming to be a Christian. It's absolutely disgusting. Like, so we ran away for a week. The cops came, took us back a week later. They couldn't hold us there because they had no proof of the abuse. We were back with my mom, and that's when things got really bad for me. Like, I thought they were bad before. They got unbelievably bad after that. If there was a fork left out somehow, I would be blamed. If I did not admit to the fork being left out, I would be slapped uncontrollably until I hit against a wall. I would be while she was slapping me, "Are you going to tell the truth now?" "Mom, I'm telling the truth." Slap. "Are you going to tell the truth now?" "Mom, I swear." Slap. "Are you going to tell the truth now?" "Mom, please." Slap. "Jesus knows you're going to hell. You're going to hell." So she would slap me uncontrollably in the face until I hit the ground. And then, depending on how crazy of a mood she was in, she would kick me uncontrollably. Just kick me while I was on all fours, crying. She would be halftime either raging, screaming, mad, or just bawling, crying. Again, with this mascara, she was a drama queen, guys. She was a complete drama queen. And you see, I was stuck in a cabin in the woods with nobody around, nobody to help, nobody to talk to, nobody to run to. My mom used to take me in front of preachers and pastors after prior going in there, telling them how bad of a child I was, and then taking me in there, being beaten up and dealing with these things, and having to admit to the pastor that I was wrong, that I was doing bad things. When really everything was just a fabrication of my mom's mind and fantasy that she lived in the trauma that she was not handling. And then living all alone on a mountain while her sister was a multimillionaire flying all over the world, hanging out with celebrities and rubbing it in her face. My aunt would come like once a year and visit us on that mountain, my rich aunt. And she would talk about all the celebrities that she would rub elbows with and bring pictures of that shit. She would talk about hanging out with Aerosmith and Bill Cosby. She would talk about going all over the world to all these restaurants and flying everywhere. She would talk about how she had just bought a $15,000 pair of earrings and went straight into the beach, onto the ocean, not even an hour later, and the water fucking washed them away, and she laughed about it. While we were living on SpaghettiOs and just barely getting by, and when my aunt would leave, I would get severely beaten. And told Jesus didn't love me, and told Jesus knew I was a liar. So that's how my aunt contributed to my abuse. My grandma would do the same. My grandma would come, once every couple years and visit. So after the cops brought me back at 12, the beatings got worse. Like I said, it would get so bad, I was her whipping boy. She would just beat the living hell out of me. And then when I recovered and she got over her crazy shit, and I got more and more obstinate. The thing was with me, guys, I got more and more obstinate. Instead of breaking, my spirit just became stronger and stronger. So I defied her and her craziness, and I would call it out every time, and I'd just get more and more beatings. It got to the point where my mom would hurt herself, hitting me and kicking me so much she would hurt herself that she gave up doing that as much. As I got older, like around the age of 14, she quit beating me because it just hurt her. It literally, like, it hurt her so badly. And she couldn't beat me with a belt enough because it left too many marks on me. So what she resorted to was I was grounded from everything. I had no social life. I was literally grounded for 4 years, almost 4 years straight. I was grounded from anything social. Like she would have to let me out socially here and there, just that way people wouldn't ask too many questions. But otherwise, I was highly, highly guarded in that house, not allowed out. And the shame and guilt that was placed upon me, even though I was rebelling against her and calling her out, I was never able, because of the shame and guilt, the intense shame and guilt, and the way that works. Now I understand how that works. I didn't understand then. Because of the intense shame and guilt, I was never able to verbalize it to anybody. I'm going to stop this and start another one.